Great. Thank you. Thank you.
And just like that, it appears there, like Oz behind the great curtain. Okay. All right, so have we all looked at the minutes, and do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, Bridget Leslie has moved that we approve. And then we've got Allie. There's several seconds. Pick one that you like, Andrew.
Got it.
Got it, girl. Stamp it done. Okay. I have a couple of comments, and I'll start out by reading a statement. We had asked that a member of the Board of Trustees, y'all will remember that we had asked somebody to attend the last meeting to talk about the presidential search and to give us an update there. And what happened was they had a training that morning and things ended up going a little over for the day. So they unfortunately were not able to make it to that commitment last week. But then Lauren, you'll remember, did give us a little bit of information and updated us, Lauren Smith. And so that was very helpful. I have since then gotten an email. I invited them to come today, and I got an email from the secretary of the board letting me know that they wouldn't be able to make it today to give an update, but that they did have an update to give. So I'm pulling that up on my phone right now so that I can read it word for word to you for sure. Okay. It says, you are welcome to attribute these words to Thad Westbrook in his capacity as Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees and Chair of the Presidential Search Committee. And so here's the direct quote. The Board of Trustees has no detailed updates to supply the University of South Carolina system community regarding the presidential search as of today, Tuesday, January 11th. The board continues to discuss options for the search, as it did most recently during a called meeting on Friday, January 7th. The board intends to notify the entire UofSC system community of important developments in the search. The board's leadership understands the staff senate's desire to participate in any future meetings with candidates, and the board's leadership intends to ensure staff senate participation in any future meetings with candidates. Andrew, I'll forward you that so that you'll have it directly as they stated it. But I think that what that shows is there's no information to share right now, but that they also did get our resolution and understand that we would like a role in that process and have acknowledged that they will be giving us such. So thank you to all of you who took part in the resolution and getting it passed and getting it shared with leadership. It was received very well from the leadership with whom we shared it, and we were thanked for our active involvement on campus and the good work that we do. Does anybody have any questions about that? Raise your hand if you do, or put it in the comments, please. Okay. As we move into the semester, I did share with you all a link that I'm going to leave active throughout the month of January. If you or your constituents have any COVID concerns, suggestions, insight, / whatever you'd like to call it, this is an open place for you to send it. It's linked to my email, and I meet with the COVID advisory team every Thursday. As I've shared in the past, we meet weekly. And so our first meeting will be this week on Thursday, and any information that I have from that, I will share with the folks on the task force. So I'll leave that open during January. It seems like this is a steadily changing event, and so I want to make sure that we have that. I will again put that link. That link was given to all of the senators, and so the senators should be sharing that out with their constituents. Are there any questions about that? Did anybody notice if Dr. Korsgaard is here? She's our first speaker, and I don't want to keep her too long. She's here. Okay. Dr. Korsgaard, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you if you're comfortable with that. And we have Antonio with your slides, but we're really excited to have Dr. Korsgaard here. She was going to come last time, and then ended up in that meeting with the board that went long. And so we're really excited to have her here. There's been some strides that have been taken with staff senators to work with some of our faculty senators within the schools and colleges. We're seeing that mesh well, and then also seeing some work that's being done with committees working together, and want to make sure that all of you understand the hard work that Faculty Senate does as a part of the formal government structure of the university. They are a very important part of how any higher ed institution functions, and that's not always an easy thing for them. And so I want to welcome Dr. Korsgaard, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Shelley. Happy New Year. Happy New Year,
You
everyone.
too.
I hope you all had a restful break and a healthy break. It sounds like a number of you did not. Sorry, Shelley. You're not alone. So yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And what I'm going to try to do is just give you a brief overview of what the Faculty Senate does and how I think we connect with Staff Senate and staff activities. So I'm seeing Staff Senate General Body Meeting as a site.
It's coming up.
Okay.
We can probably go to, yeah, it's coming. There you go.
There you go. Okay, next slide. You can go to the next one. No, next one. I didn't mean to leave that slide in there, so you can advance. Okay, so to start with, what I wanted to talk about is the backup one. Yeah. The legislative authority. So this is authority that the board, technically the Board of Trustees delegates authority to the administration and to the faculty for certain activities. So this is what has been delegated to us according to the faculty manual. Interestingly, fun fact, this is now being investigated by the board because I think we said we own admissions and they didn't like what we were doing with admissions. So now they want to know, what have we delegated to them and what can we take back? So hopefully they won't take any of this back, but this is what we have right now. And this is kind of standard in most universities. So it's on the academic side and the faculty side. So on the academic side, we govern over standards of admission, registration, requirements for granting degrees, curriculum, instruction, extracurricular activities, discipline of students, educational policies and standards of the university. And on the faculty side, we govern research, all things research, and all things pertaining to the conduct of faculty affairs, including the discipline of their own members. So that would be, tenure, post-tenure, and tenure review revocation. And any policies that are related to research. So we also include in there things like, research fraud, plagiarism, and things like that. So you see, if you look on the academic side of things, that we really actually share these responsibilities with administration. So, for example, we do like virtually nothing with the registration. I mean, I think there are some finer, broader, high level, not finer, but higher level aspects of registration that would have to be approved by the faculty. For the most part, the operations and policies regarding registration are done at the administration, by the administration and staff. So there's a lot of complex points of intersection on curriculum and courses as well, particularly on curriculum, because many of those facets of those activities are operated by staff. So we have to, if we make any changes, we have to do that in coordination with staff. Discipline of students, we have a dean with discipline, basically. And so we actually don't do a whole lot with that anymore. I think when it comes to expulsion, we still kind of govern that. And of course, we sit on committees that are involved in some of those activities, but really the development of policy and the implementation of that is more at this point in the hands of staff. And some of the other educational policies, standards of university, we have a bunch of policies and procedures in the policy and procedure manual. Many of them come out of the provost office or out of other entities, HR. So there are other staff and administrative folks who are involved in that. So I think that this is a natural point of intersection between the faculty senate and the staff senate. But I think there's actually a little bit of a gap on the staff senate side. So, a lot of this is really done by the administration. And it's really I don't know the answer to the question, but it's a question of to what extent does administration delegate the authority for those things to staff. So I don't know how much is like resides at the very highest levels of executives and what's pushed down and how the approval process works. But it certainly would be very different from the way we do it on the faculty senate side, which is relatively autonomous, and it just kind of passes through all these committees. And I think what happens on the administrative side is really more through the hierarchy and is a function of how those entities are organized. But but we do certainly, we have a lot of points of intersection. So you'll see that on if you look at the composition of our committees, you'll see that many of them include staff who know the most about whatever that function is. Okay, next slide. And stop me anytime anybody has a question. So in terms of governing bodies, and this is like talking about how decisions pass through the faculty, these are our governing bodies with general faculty, which is, includes the president and provost and all the faculty. And by faculty, it's all faculty who are full-time. So that's both professional track faculty and tenure track faculty. I think many of you are faculty, are instructors, but you're not faculty because you're not full-time. So you're not actually voting general faculty. You have to be doing that as your primary job. And then below the general faculty is the faculty senate. So the general faculty is the ultimate authority on changes to the faculty manual. So a change to the faculty manual goes through lots and lots of committees usually. The Senate votes on it, and then the general faculty vote on it. So that's the last change. So that means that only happens twice a year because they only meet twice a year. So faculty manual changes move at an absolutely glacial pace. It's like the slowest thing, the most arduous thing to change. Senate has one senator for every 10 faculty members, which means it's gotten really big as the faculty has grown. We are actually contemplating reducing the representation or increasing that ratio just to keep the Senate manageable. So they make the initial changes to the faculty manual, approve them at the Senate level, then have ultimate authority over that. That again is the general faculty. But the remainder of stuff, most of the academic stuff, they are the ones who have that final authority. They actually delegate a lot of that to the standing committees. So, for example, the University Tenure and Promotion Committee, which reviews all the cases and approves tenure promotion criteria, their decisions are not voted on by the Senate. They just report to the Senate that they've done this, but the Senate doesn't do anything about it. So we have a lot of those kinds of activities that aren't actually voted on at any level. It's just done at the committee level. So we have a bunch of standing committees, which I'll go through in a minute, and that's where all the hard work is done. And then we also have ad hoc and special advisory committees that do a whole lot of work, but are tasked with a specific thing, and so they come to an end at some point in time. Next slide. So standing committees, these are the standing committees. There's a lot of them, as you can see. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I've highlighted these top 5, which I do want to talk about briefly because they are the really important ones. There's another one that's in here that's not super important, but it's been most recently very important. It probably will continue for a while, depending on what happens with the online initiative, and that is the Instructional Development Committee. And that committee is sort of a precursor to the Courses and Curriculum Committee, or Curriculum Courses Committee, which approves all curricula and course changes. The Instructional Development Committee explores and sets policy for innovations in instruction. So what we went through with COVID, they did a lot to kind of develop guidelines for what's appropriate during COVID. And they also developed guidelines more recently for how we're going to improve the conversion of online programs for the online initiative. So they've become a rather important committee. And I note them in particular because that committee has a lot of staff on it, like Trina Hoop, who really know what's going on the operational side of things when it comes to trying to do something. Trying to convert a program, and also what to do when you have a program online. So again, illustrates, we staff these committees with a lot of different kinds of people. They're not just faculty. Next slide. So I just want to go through each of these committees really quickly. Steering committee is the one that staffs all the committees, and it also decides like what issues should be taken up. So we do some sort of like strategic. We try to be strategic and not too reactive on that. So what issues come up that we think need to be investigated or need action, and so we often charge committees. We form and charge committees. So next slide. Faculty Advisory Committee, super important committee. This is the one that kind of approves all policy changes. So faculty manual changes go through this before it goes to the Senate. And they also charge committees on particular studies or investigations. And they review other kinds of proposals that come from other committees. So they are kind of the gatekeeper of the policy for faculty Senate. Next. Oh, let me also say that the FAC works with the Provost's office. The Provost's office shares ACAF policies, those are the academic policies, academic affairs policies. So those are ones that really affect faculty and the academic excellence initiatives, both research and academic programming. And so those are really the charge of the Provost office, but the UofSC office generously shares the development of those with us via the FAC. So a big part of the work on that committee is having Cheryl Addy, who's the current vice provost, takes care of these kinds of things. Just going line by line through these mind-numbing policies that are so important. So I give this committee, the FAC, a tremendous amount of credit for doing work that requires a lot of attention to detail when you want to take a nap. It's just really a lot of tedium, but super important work. And I also think that committee is a point of light in shared governance, because those are policies that the Provost office could just push out, but they don't. They work with the FAC. They really take our input. They take it very seriously, and it's usually reflected in refinements of the policy before it even goes up for public review. So I think that's a nice thing. It's a good thing that's functioning really well. It just takes a lot of work, and a lot of concentration, a lot of working memory too. Committee on Courses and Curricula, I always say that backwards. Curricula and Courses. They approve any course changes, new courses, even like the change in the title of the course as you go through this, and of course any developments, changes, or new introductions of new curricula. So this is one of the two most important committees in terms of the overall workload. This is the academic one, and then there's one that's the research one. Tremendous amount of work going on in this committee, and just a lot. It's some of it is a little too bureaucratic. My predecessor, Mark Cooper, worked with this committee to develop a more streamlined process that's reflected in the new KIM software that's going online right now. Still really complicated, so we're looking at it again. I really should say Stacy Winchester, who's the co-chair of this committee, is looking at all this stuff again. We're trying to make refinements to make this less cumbersome. This is almost like a job, just like my job is almost like a real job. I have a colleague who refers to any service job as a hobby job. So mine's not a hobby, and Stacy Winchester's job is not a hobby. It's like a tremendous amount of work. So we're trying to get that to be a little bit more balanced, so she can be a librarian at the same time she's doing this role. Next slide. Okay, this is the University Committee on Tenure and Promotions, or UCTP, and this committee has two primary responsibilities. The first is to approve the tenure and promotion criteria that come out of the units. So the units are supposed to every 7 years revise or update their tenure and promotion criteria. I think this is the most important thing faculty do in the university. I must confess I have a bias on the research side. It's my primary identity as a researcher. And in terms of maintaining the quality of the faculty as scholars and the research reputation of the institution, it rests on having really rigorous tenure and promotion criteria, which perpetually have to be updated. Part of that is because the world changes, But the other part is that when I first came here, we were not an R1 institution. And when we became an R1 institution, we had to up our game and keep it up. And we were upping our game. That's what got us to R1. And we have to keep up those standards. And that means having higher TMP standards than we had, 15 years before we hit R1. The university, as you know, has aspirations to go even higher to the AEU status. And that means upping our game again and maintaining very, very high standards. And that only can come through the tenure and promotion criteria. This is our gigantic carrot and stick. So reviewing those in a timely manner and making sure that the units have high standards is it's an art, and it's extremely important. The other thing that we do is actually we review the process. We don't actually it says here, make recommendations to the president. It's actually misleading. The tenure and promotion committee just reviews to make sure everybody else has been doing their job properly. So did the unit follow their own criteria? Did the dean, was he fair and measured in the way he or she applied the criteria, and so on and so forth. So we look at everybody's decision and how it ranks against the evidence, and did they make a valid decision? And if we see any aberrations in that, we go to the president and say we disagree with this decision. And then we have a debate once a semester, I'm sorry. We have a meeting with the president and provost and talk about those discrepancies. And then it's just up to the president. We just defer to the president. Ultimately, it's his decision to resolve the controversy between the UCTP and the other decision makers in the process. But the idea there is that there is going to be an outside party of people who are well informed in the research process, but don't have a stake in a particular candidate or unit. The subcommittees that do this review are always outside of the unit, so they're sort of disinterested parties. And that they're really holding accountable the decision makers to their decision-making process. So it's just a final step in that. Ultimately, I think that my experience, I've been on that committee twice, that the hardest hurdle to pass is the unit. It's the faculty in that candidate's unit. And that's where the real governance happens, is at the unit's decision. And our job at the UCTP level is really to protect that, to make sure that process was done properly, the faculty, did what they should have done, and that every decision-making body going forward did what they should have done. A lot of work on that one too. Okay, next slide. Faculty Welfare Committee. So this is the committee that deals with policies that affect the welfare of faculty. So include salary, benefits, things of that nature. They also look at making changes in any existing policies or ones that aren't being enacted properly. I would say there has been, when I first came, I've been here for 30 years, over 30 years now, and when I first came here, there was a deficit of policy. It really was a university run on a handshake in many respects. And over the years, I've seen more formalization of policy and professionalization of all the functions of the university, which I think is a good thing. Although if you look at the policies and procedure manual, it's a nightmare now. It's huge, hundreds of policies. So that's kind of, that's hard to keep track of. And so sometimes policies aren't really enacted when they should be. And that's not like people are trying to abrogate policy. It's just, I think sometimes we're not aware of what the appropriate policy is. So it's sort of like a policy neglect problem, and that comes to the faculty welfare when things aren't working the way they ought to. And so this committee generally deals with those types of issues, not like I've been treated unfairly, but this is not working kinds of things. I've been treated unfairly is sent to the faculty grievance committee, which is a different committee. So yeah, that's basically what they do. And I think that might be our last one. Is that our last one? Again, the next slide, I think that's it. So yes, so just to wrap up, there are some obvious unique features to the faculty that distinguish it from the staff. that influence governance, and that I think that's primarily around self-managing our employees. So we follow less of the formal hierarchy and more of this, kind of committee-based governance or regulation of our ourselves. So we gatekeep for ourselves, and that I think that part will never be replicated on the staff side. If anything, ours is going to go away. If the state legislature has their way, we'll lose tenure anyhow, so a lot of that will go away. But I hope that won't happen. But I think on the operational side of academics, I think that a lot of what we do, you do see done in staff, but it's not done in that systematic committee structure, but it's done through your own organizational hierarchy and the procedures that have been developed within those specific units. There's no like overarching way it's done throughout the whole university, which, kind of makes sense to me. And it's through that formal structure, and our committee structure, I think, works together more and more as our organization's gotten more professionalized, more formalized, so a lot of the work that years ago were done just by faculty is now being done by these joint committees, but it's all so much more work than it used to be, not just because of the size of the organization, but because it is more formalized, more professionalized, and of course because we offer far more to students than just a class as part of the residential experience. So that's it. I think there's plenty of opportunities there for us to collaborate. And if I could say one other thing, it's been a tough 2 years for everyone. I think it's been particularly tough for staff. So I talk about this a lot. I want you to know I talk about it a lot when I talk to administration, to the board. Which I think the staff are often forgotten when you get to the board of trustees. But that the care and feeding of the staff really need to be re-examined. And this is not, to me, a governance issue. It's really just well-being after 2 years of really harsh working conditions. So I want you to know that I recognize the travails that you guys have been going through. I don't know what I could possibly do to help you, except I keep talking about it. So I share that with you.
That was great, Dr. Korsgaard. Really appreciate that. Good input. You guys, would love to hear some questions from you all on partnering with faculty senate, with the senators, faculty senators within your units. If you're from a school or a college, of course, the difference with the staff senate is we represent beyond the schools and the colleges and out into the other areas of the university. So maybe you have a different type of question, but we still want to hear it. So if any of our senators have a question, please raise your hand and Antonio will elevate you so that you're able to do that.
Brian, thank you for all the thank yous.
You're just getting lots of thank yous. So you did a wonderful job. You covered it all. Oh, I do see a hand.
Yeah, Brian Hall.
Okay. Senator Hall, let's get you elevated.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
I have two questions if we have time. The first, and this is a hypothetical, no specific example, but in a scenario where faculty senate agrees on a specific policy, but faculty are not following that policy in their interactions with staff, what is the remedy?
That's an interesting hypothetical. So yeah, most of the channels for complaining about that are for faculty, at least what the faculty senate oversees. So again, that might be something like going to the professional conduct committee with a complaint. But we are making revisions in the professional conduct issue to make it clear that it's faculty on staff, faculty on student, or faculty on faculty. So that should the complainant should be able to be anybody and utilize that route. But other ones like the grievance committee or the appeals committees, those are just for faculty. So I think that if there's a concern that faculty are violating their own policy, that it would be appropriate to go to their supervisor, because there's nothing in the faculty senate for that. But that supervisor, if it triggers a certain kind of policy violation, if certain types of policy violations will trigger faculty adjudication, but we don't actually do the investigation of things like that. So let's say it's some kind of misappropriation of funds, for example. Like let's say somebody's taking money from a grant and using it to profit their own company, and you find out about something like that. That's something that I think would go to their supervisor, or even to the ombuds, or to the audit and compliance office. They would investigate it. Ultimately, the faculty would come back in if they get to the point where they're going to do a personnel action that would impact tenure, because we have to be involved in those decisions. But we don't actually even investigate those things. So most of the time, you probably have to go to the supervisor for a policy violation.
Understood. Thank you for considering. I think working with department chair or dean's office in the college has been not that we've had a lot of issues with faculty, but just curious how you would think that would resolve. And second question, which I think is probably a quicker one. Some faculty are hired as full professor, if I understand correctly. What, if any, role does the Tenure and Promotion Committee have in selecting the level at which faculty are hired?
So the hiring of people outside the initial, the assistant level, is up to the unit. They should ideally specify it in the search process that that's what they're looking for. And if they are at that level at the institution they're coming from, then they would naturally be hired at that level here. We have on occasion hired people who were like an associate, and we hired them in at full because they were due to be promoted anyway, and that's part of how we lure them into the university. The more controversial issue is whether or not you grant them tenure upon admission. And for a long time, we would not we'd make people wait like 3 years to give them tenure, which was really, really insulting for a full professor. And it made it hard to get full professors, because if you have a huge vita of research and you're a well-established, excellent instructor, why would you have to prove that for another 3 years at UofSC? So we stopped that, and so that goes through an expedited process. It used to be to have to go through the University Tenure and Promotion Committee all the way up through that process. And we started an expedited process where they do a shorter tenure portfolio for their unit. The unit votes on them, and then it goes to the dean, and then it goes to the provost. So it's a more rapid process, and we get through that in a few weeks, so that we can hire those individuals who are usually highly competitive and difficult to lure. So we still go through a review process for granting tenure regardless of their rank. But we generally, if we're hiring people from an institution that's a peer or an aspirant, we will hire them at the rank that they came in at without question.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Those are great questions. And I want to add that that Audrey was also one of the instrumental heads of the Title IX committee that looked to do major. I was blessed and fortunate to serve on that committee, and it was a monster. And so Dr. Korsgaard's work with the data for that to inform the processes, that it was a task force at that point, and then turned into a committee that put the things that were found into action. And so my understanding is that's moving right along, but it was due to her leadership along with Kirsten Kennedy, that many of you know, to get that moving. And so just being able to watch her in action with that was no doubt you put everything you have into everything, Dr. Korsgaard, and I don't know how you do that with as many plates as you have spinning. Any other questions that we could ask? All right, well, thank you for your time. I know that you were very busy here the first week of class with lots of questions about COVID coming at you, but thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that was very helpful. And just so you know, the Faculty Senate did ask me to speak when I first assumed my role. And so that was very helpful in starting some connections there. And so I hope that's a relationship that we'll keep building on, and looking as our committees start to do more, then we can figure out ways to work with them. And so moving right along in the agenda, I hope you all saw it online. The next step is the, well, it's right here on my screen, the report to the officers. And so we've got Tyson that will speak on some bylaws amendments that were first read at the last meeting.
Thanks, Shelley. So, folks, I'll be real brief. Just a refresher on what we discussed at our last meeting. So in accordance with the bylaws, these amendments were vetted through the Membership and Bylaws Committee, approved by both of those. Then we presented them at last month's meeting. Just a quick reminder, we also posted these in the Teams environment. Item number 1 was adjusting the election of officers to have those elections held in March. Therefore, we can have those elections in March, and then the general Senate body elections after that. So that was item number 1. Item number 2 was asking that any current senator interested in running for an office submit in writing to the Staff Senate Executive Committee their intention to run. So that will need to be received by the Staff Senate Exec Committee in writing prior to our February meeting. That was item number 2. And then item number 3 clarifies that we want to have an informational session for anyone interested in running for office in January. So pending approval of that, we will get to work post haste on getting that organized. So I will, the voting on this will occur later in the meeting, but I just wanted to, in case anyone was absent or needed a refresher, or had any questions prior to when we get into debate on the bylaws. So at this time, does anyone have any questions or need anything else further clarified before we move on to the next speaker? If not, if something pops up during the meeting, feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll come back to this when it's time to vote on it. But Shelley, I will yield things back to you.
Excellent. And a reminder for anyone that came late, you have had your mics and your video turned off. We've got Antonio that's controlling behind the scenes, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. So just raise your hand if you want to be called upon and elevated to a speaker, or if you're a senator, we invite you to post there in the comments. And it sounds like Rashandra is keeping a pretty good grasp of those. So now we'll move on to the reports of the committees. Don't feel the need to report if you don't have anything, but we're just going to always call on everybody. The first committee to report will be membership. If you don't have a report, just say nothing to report. And I see that Vanessa is raising her hand to be elevated, please.
She has mic access now.
Okay, you have mic access now, Vanessa.
Okay, thank you. I'm Vanessa Berry, the co-chair of the membership committee, and we've been working on the officer election process. And later on during this meeting, there are going to be some dates and timelines given or shared with you as to how that process is going to work. The membership committee will be having an information session for those interested in running for office sometime in January. We are updating our new senator orientation program, and we're also reviewing the Senate seat representation and reviewing a proposal to apportion more senators to academic affairs units. So those are the things that we're working on right now.
Excellent. Any questions for membership? Raise your hand. Okay, moving along to communications, please. Okay, I see that there's no report. Next is staff policy and well-being, please. Megan's hand is up. Colacione.
She
Hey
has
everyone. I just wanted to remind the group that we have the staff benefits information being collected this week. It will close for your vote for your constituents on the top 3 benefits that your constituents want to see focused on. That will close this Friday. There is a specific link just for senators that was sent out in the email to the group. So if you want to just go back to reference that email where we have that specific link that you can go to the survey. And again, only complete that survey once you have the overall consensus of what you would like or what the constituents that you represent would like focus on. And then what our staff policy and wellbeing group will do on Thursday, we meet. We're going to look at preliminary results until it closes on Friday, but we will start to see the focus areas, and then we will share that with the group next time we meet of just where the top probably 5, focus areas were based off of the reporting. So please take some time this week, set a reminder on your Outlook calendar, whatever you got to do to make sure you just represent the voice of staff. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me on Teams. Same with Janae. We are open and ready, but we just want to make sure we're capturing the voice. So let us know if you need anything. Thanks.
Any questions about the survey or anything else for this committee? Okay, next is professional development.
Melissa or Leroy on the meeting today? Oh, Mr. Sims is on there.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, we have no report on today. I couldn't get it typed in fast enough, so I just raised my hands. But happy holidays and welcome back, everyone.
We're happy to hear your voice.
Yeah, thank you.
I know you guys are so busy over there, so thank you for your hard work.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up is community project. They may still be carrying all that food you guys brought to the December meeting over to the pantry. That was a great showing. Yeah, I see some hands clapping. Catherine has written in the comments, thanks to everyone who donated. Really appreciate the contributions, and they will have updates for the top 5 drive planned for February. Excellent job. And really, that was just amazing. And I don't know if you guys saw that I posted in the general comments of Teams, but another organization, a faculty group on campus, saw the pictures from ours, and then they decided they were going to participate as well. So, that ripple effect of good causing more good. Next up, the most exciting committee out there, bylaws.
They indicated no report in the chat. Kim Rose.
No report. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Kim. And then this is an ad hoc committee. We mentioned last time that Wright Culpepper will be leading this. And so, Wright, I'll just ask you to pop on, please, and introduce who your committee is going to be. And again, the mission of this committee is to look at other institutions, peer and peer aspirants, and see how staff are involved in the governance at those places.
Hey, Shelley, thanks.
Yeah.
Everyone, welcome back. Happy New Year. I'm excited to be participating in this. I think it's something that's important to all of us, and so I appreciate the feedback that we've already started to get, or just ideas that we've already started to get on this. So the committee will consist of Joe Fortune, Bo Hart, and Christine Sheelick, with myself serving as chair. I'm excited to have them on board. Basically, the mission of the committee is to research how staff are involved in campus leadership positions or committees, whatnot, on other college campuses. And we're going to pay special attention to the Board of Trustees and presidential search committees. The end game here is to try to identify ways in which, or provide suggestions to leadership where USC needs to make changes. So I guess the big thing that I want to point out here is that while this is a committee of 4 and we will likely make fairly quick work, hoping to get done in early May, if anybody has any knowledge of what is going on at other institutions, don't be afraid just to reach out to me and let me know. It'd be a great place to at least start. As we get off the ground here, it'll help us hit the ground running. So any ideas that you have, or if you have friends or former colleagues that are at other institutions and you know how it works there, that would be a great place for us to get started. So thanks a lot. Appreciate any input you can provide.
Thank you. And thanks to your committee as well for taking on even more roles and responsibilities. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Okay, moving on to new business. I'm going to turn it back over to our parliamentarian, Tyson Lusk, for some voting.
All right, everyone. So we're now on the portion of the agenda where we'll actually discuss and debate and then vote on the bylaws the bylaw amendments that we discussed. I do want to briefly just thank the membership committee for bringing these to our attention, the bylaws committee for vetting these out incredibly well and looked at it at all different angles, as well as the executive committee for giving feedback on these bylaws. So it has been thoroughly vetted through the committee process. The committees have approved these. The membership committee bylaws and executive committee have approved them. We've followed the bylaws in presenting them to the body. So at this time, I would move adoption.
Okay, and tell us for this, Tyson, we need a poll. If I'm not, we have a second from Mike, and so that brings it to the body. And remind me, we need 3/4.
Yeah, 2/3.
2/3.
Yep. And so sorry, this will take just a minute. We do need to take these one by one. We can't do these as a package. So we've been moved and seconded. So if there's any further discussion or debate, we can do that at this time. And then Antonio, if you can go ahead and prepare that question number 1 for us. But this time, if there's anyone else who wants to speak on these amendments or ask any questions, now would be the time to do so.
And to clarify, we're going to vote on them. See, you should see on your screen 1, 2, and 3, and we'll be voting on those each as a separate vote. And we'll be doing that with a poll that Antonio, the Oz, can set up for us. So now is your time for questions. Raise your hand if you have any, or type them in the box. I don't think we have any, Tyson. Looks like everybody's good to go. So
Yep.
We've already got some voting.
All right. Well, we can. If everyone should see the form that just popped up, you can vote yes or no in that.
And we're voting on item number 1.
Item number 1. Yep. And Antonio, we cannot see the total number. So when you close it out, if you could give us the raw number just for the minutes as well.
Right now it's 41 yes, well, 42 yeses and 0 no's at the time.
And Shelley, as president, I think you can close the vote whenever you feel appropriate.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I feel like we're ready to close it with 42. Do you want to move straight into number 2 and ask if we have any questions?
Yep.
Then that passes by unanimous vote.
All right, so we'll go through our process again. So I'd move adoption of item number 2.
Do we have a second? Brian Hall. All right, give Antonio a minute to put the question up, and if there's no questions for the committee, we'll go ahead and vote there. A reminder, if you do have a question, throw your hand up or put it in the chat. We certainly don't want to silence anyone.
It should be up, posted now.
It is. So everybody should see the question there. And you can click on it, yes or no, and then hit submit your vote. And that will submit it to the poll. And this is voting on the second item. Big thank you to all of our organized people that make this so easy for us to do. All right, counting down. 5, 4, 3. Read the item is the request. Do you mind reading it, Tyson?
So this is item number 2. The current bylaw reads Article 5, Election Process, Section 4, Election of Officers, Section 4D, quote, the letter must be received by the immediate past president prior to the April meeting. And this amendment would change that language to the letter must be received by the immediate past president prior to the February staff Senate meeting. So in that case, so quote, end quote, and just to clarify, the immediate past president, since we don't have one currently, that that Shelley assumes that role for these purposes, since we at this time do not have an immediate past president.
Okay, we have 44 responses for yes and 0 for no.
All right, seeing as such, then it's a unanimous vote for item number 2 passes. And then we will move to item number 3. Raise your hand if you have any questions or write it in the comments.
I'll read this one out too. Just okay. Article 5, Election Process, Section 4, Election of Officers, Section 4B from, quote, an orientation for senators interested in officer positions may be held typically in January annually. This orientation would include discussion with past officers on the job descriptions. The amendment would change that language to, quote, an information session for senators interested in officer positions may be held typically in January annually. This information session would include discussion with past officers on the job descriptions, unquote. And with that, I'll move adoption of item number 3.
Do we have a second? All right, we've got a second. The vote should appear there on your screen. If you go ahead and vote yay or nay, and then hit submit vote, please. All right, looks like we're at 43, Antonio, am I right?
Correct.
Okay, and so with that, a unanimous vote in favor of this. And so thank you everybody for your time and for doing that. Thank you to our bylaws committee, our membership committee, and everyone that played a part in this. We told you from the beginning that the bylaws were a little bit of a living document until we got them solidified to where we wanted them to be. We had great folks that participated in building those bylaws, but until you start to live in them for a minute, you don't really know what you need. And so great job. Tyson, anything else on that?
That is it. And I misspoke. Lena just corrected me. The immediate past president role is being handled by Angela and Lena. So
even better.
Sorry for the, yeah, Shelley, you're off the hook. Angela, Lena, you got
even better. Check the box.
Apologies for the misstep there, and Lena, thank you for that correction.
Sounds good to me. Okay, then we will move next into, that's a great segue, to Lena and Angela to talk about the officer candidate timeline. Pay close attention and ask lots of questions because we expect lots of folks to put their names in the pot for this. Lena and Angela. And now Lena's tagging Angela on this. So Angela, it's all you, babe.
If they could just raise their hand, it'd be fine.
Angela, raise your hand, and then it'll make it easier to be found so he can elevate you. Thank you. You follow directions so well.
You're good to go.
And now Angela.
There we go. Now I'm not muted. So again, hello everyone, Happy New Year. And someone bring up the slides about the timeline?
The membership slide.
There we go. All right. Now we're cooking. I don't know how to turn my camera on, but anyway. Oh well, I look the same as I did before last time you saw me. So there.
I gave you rights for your camera.
Say that again.
I said, yeah, I gave you rights for your camera. You turn it on.
I see it now. There we go. Ta-da! All right. So officer election timeline. So Lena and I worked on this, and this is the timeline for the officer elections. So officer elections. So in January, which is the month that we're in now, there will be information sessions regarding the positions in the executive committee. And I believe those days will be provided by the membership committee, where we will have a Teams meeting with the officers, and you all can ask questions of them. We don't have those dates yet, but again, those will be provided by the membership committee. And February 1st, the nominations for officer positions closes. And so you can nominate someone for an officer role for the next term. February the 8th, if you want to nominate yourself to be an officer, the last day to do that is February the 8th, to submit your self-nomination form and accept, if you were nominated by someone else, the nomination. So you all understand that? So 2 things. Nominations for officer positions closes on February the 1st. So if you're nominating somebody, you have until February 1 to get that in. February the 8th, if you want to nominate yourself, that's the deadline to nominate yourself, and to also accept or not accept a nomination if you were nominated by someone else. Hope that makes sense. If not, type a question in the chat box. All right, March 8th, our staff senate meeting. Officer nominees will have the opportunity to speak on how they'll contribute to advancing the mission, vision, and goals of the staff senate. This is your time to shine, to let us know how you will contribute to the officer role that you want to be nominated or be elected to in the next term. So you can do that however way you want to do it. Those presentations should be brief, because we don't want to take up a whole lot of time with that, but just have maybe a brief presentation, maybe like 1 slide or however you want to do that, to show us how you will be able to contribute in that role that you wish to be elected to as an officer. So that is the March 8th staff senate meeting. So you have a month, 2 months to get that set up. All right, March 8th through the 11th, the voting will take place via electronic system. So how we voted for the staff senators back last year, I guess it was last spring. It's been forever, but it hasn't been that long. We'll be using that same process to elect our officers. So we'll be doing that. You will log on with your network username and ID and vote for the person you wish to be president, or president we already had that person, but vice president, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that voting will take place March 8th through the 11th. And then March 15th, Lena and I will notify the candidates of the election results. So that is our election timeline. Again, February 1st, nominations for officer positions closes. So that means you can now start to nominate people for officer roles. And then February the 8th is the last day to submit self-nomination forms and accept nominations if you were nominated by someone else. March 8th will be a staff senate meeting where you can present and do your campaigning for the role that you want to be elected to. And then we will vote March 8th through the 11th and notify everyone March 15th. Are there any questions? Please let Lena and I know. And we will send an email with the timeline and the links to the forms between now and tomorrow.
Thanks, Angela. If anybody has any questions right now, raise your hand and we can, goodness, that sounds like a broken record. Get you elevated to ask, or you can put it in the comments. I would strongly encourage you, if you're thinking about running for a particular role, I know we're going to have the info sessions, but reach out to an officer and just ask them, really, what did this involve? How did it work? We all will be, I would think we'd all be completely honest with you because we want it to be a good fit for folks. Rashandra can tell you how honest I was with her when she came in for her role. A reminder that if you're interested in the vice president role, that's a commitment of 3 years. That person is vice president, and then they serve as president the next year, and then of course would then be the previous president, the past president role on the executive board. And so that's that one to consider. But all of the positions other than that are open. Rashandra will move into the president's role. So you'll all be looking to be a member of her executive board. And I know she's looking for a strong crew. We've had a wonderful crew this year and looking for another strong group.
Yes.
Any questions?
Well, all righty then. There are no questions. We look forward to seeing all of y'all's nominations in the next few weeks. And shoot us an email if you have any further questions or comments or concerns.
Join the party, Rashandra says. That's
Join the
right.
party.
It's a party.
It's fun over here.
It is fun. It's fun. Okay, y'all, we accomplished a lot of business today. So now I'll say if there are any announcements, put them in the chat or raise your hand, and Antonio will elevate you so you can tell us about them. What announcements do you have? Tell me something good. All right, well then just don't tell me anything bad. We'll take it for what it is. And I want to thank y'all for being so flexible and working with us so quickly to go virtual, and just thank you for your service. It's hard to believe you're halfway through a year and another half to go, but let's make this last half even better. The next meeting, as they're showing me here on the screen, will hopefully be in person back in the Lumpkin Auditorium. Certainly look forward to that. And the committees are doing great work. So if you're not investing in your committee, make sure that you put in that time. That's where the work really, really happens. So, and again, everybody clap for Antonio for helping us do a great job. And everybody stay safe. Thank you.